Hey, thou art that. Yeah, I'm interested in the project idea too. I mean, I've been thinking of this for years, just in general, that it's sort of the next stage of what we do to actually collaborate in a direct way, because I think there is a natural collaboration that happens, but it does happen through conflict, and that's one of the things that makes it so easy to do this as a hobby in our spare time. I put a lot of thought into my philosophy, um, but anytime I have to drop it, something else comes up, I can drop it, and I don't necessarily have to think about presenting things in a certain order, a certain way, like you would, say, if you're writing a book or presenting your material totally from scratch, because what we can do is we see things we disagree with, and that is sort of a natural moment to make a comment. And there's really nothing wrong with that, but yeah, collaboration would be good. Okay, but on this thing, I think I'll just focus on this river example. I understand, obviously, hopefully, that the sort of the meaning of why we say it's not the same river twice. Okay. But my point is that is based on a misunderstanding of how identity works, a misunderstanding of the word same. And, it's actually an example of why these truths are not metaphysics, because something like A equals A can hardly be some sort of absolute metaphysical truth when we don't really even quite get it right. For example, we assume it means something's unchanging. Now, the problem with the idea that for something to be the same, that has to be exactly the same material and the same configuration, it's possible to posit that. But the thing is, becomes a trivial term, or anti-trivial. It applies to nothing, okay? There's nothing that is unchanging. So nothing has identity in that case. And is that really the definition that we'd want to use? So this is what I'm saying. Once you see that everything is a process. And the river is just a strong example where the process character comes through for a lot of people. You can see that. It's harder to see how a proton is a process. It also is a process. It's a system of energy, okay? And so is the river, okay? But first of all, let's remember, the river is not the water flowing down the hill. The river is the whole system. The water flows down the hill, goes to some body of water, let's say the ocean. It evaporates, it's blown in by the wind over the mountain, falls, it comes down. That's the system of the river. And it's also the land that the river runs over, and the underground aquifer that has formed underneath the river. Most rivers have large rivers underneath them, underground. Okay, it's the animals that come to the river and bring materials to the river and take materials away. And so, of course, those animals can be speckled all over, even migrate in and out of that be part of another river system, thereby creating a relationship. So it's this complicated system. And when you step into the river, you are stepping into that system. You are becoming a part of that system. Okay. Now, when I step into it later, is it the same system? Yeah, it's the system that has made a river there upon which life could grow and evolve and settle in. And it was the same system the whole time, just this continuous system. And what makes it the same is its relationship to itself, that it led to a later version of itself. That is the criteria that we as rational beings will look for in the real world to decide if this should be called a system. And if somebody gets fundamental on us and say, but is that really the essence of the river? We'll say there are no essences. There are criteria by which we look at a part of the world at the time. We use criteria to mask out which part of reality we want to consider and draw lines that are not absolute but sensible. So every river system in North America is related in some way. Some migratory bird or something has related those systems. Wind patterns, weather, the way they share water. And yet we can't identify parts, a subpart of this whole system of rivers, as a river. And if that's not a river, nothing's a river. But consider the practical implications. I once had a conversation with someone about this very thing. And it was very, I could have gotten very offended, but, you know, as on a personal level, she's from the city and just didn't really have a very good ecological consciousness. But she was familiar with the "so you never step in the same river twice" thing. And she actually was saying to us that, you know, that's why you could shit in the river. You could go ahead and wash with your soap right in the river because it'll be gone the next time you go down there. It's never the same river twice. And if it isn't the same river twice, then if she comes down to this river where she poured a load of toxic waste in, and we go down there a year later, and she says, I once poisoned a river, but it wasn't this one. Yeah, you poisoned that river. Why?